Doobie doobie doo. Doobie. Hi, for those of you tuning in later, this is another one of our semi-regularly unscheduled live streams. And I am completely unprepared because that's kind of my shtick. So stick with me while I get set up. We have no topic this evening. We're just talking. I made some. What did I make? I clearly did not make any provisions for equipment that works. I made some controversial statements on a video this week, so it's possible we get some outraged people in the chat demanding that I defend myself. You want to see something sad? You want to see something? Hey, Buck99. Boo, what's up, buddy? You want to see something completely indefensible? This is it. This is all I have for a cigar tonight. Because I was an undisciplined ass and knew I was to my last one and I smoked it. So all I got is the butt. Budget Prepper Bro, how you doing, sir? We should talk about prepping tonight. We haven't talked about prepping in a long time. Where is everybody on the prepping? I have to be honest with you. Sorry, a baby is up way later than he's supposed to be, and he's on his way to bed, but he is struggling. This will give me about 10 minutes. I know, bud. I did. I let everybody down. All I got is this little nub because I couldn't just hold out one day. I had to smoke the one I had because I had it right then. Yeah, so Budget Prepper tells us that he's going up to his property in October and going to sort some stuff and practice some basic skills I know I'm lacking on. What skills are you going to be practicing, Budget Prepper? I have completely laid down on my preps. Where's the camera? The camera's over here. I have completely laid down on my preps. Even worse than I laid down on my cigar. We had a really busy spring. So I didn't even do a garden this year. And I haven't been putting any food back. And we actually have been busting into some of our stores so that we've actually depleted some of our preps. I haven't increased my ammunition stockpile in years. It's probably been 5 years since I've bought any meaningful amount of ammunition. And now I've added a caliber. No, I didn't add a caliber. I've always had that caliber. Never mind. I haven't added a caliber. I may be about to add a caliber. So I am way, way, way behind. I've had some, what's the right word? I've had some evolution in my prepperdom. Budget Prepper's doing mapping and land nav, sorting old gear and making sure everything is up to snuff, as well as some trail clearing and some trigger time with my new brush gun. What's your new brush gun, Budget Prepper? Let us know what you're packing. Yeah, no, land nav and hey Les, how you doing, sir? Land nav is one of the great overlooked skills. Now, in my opinion, land nav is a militia skill, not a prepper skill. But it's still a skill every man, I think, should have. Being able to navigate through, especially if you're somewhere flat. If you live in flat country, I don't. You really need to have your pace count down, and you really, really, really need to know how to use your compass. Where I live in a mountainous area, where you can see the terrain, just a I can't remember what those maps are called. Dear Lord, I'm so old. A map that shows elevation changes, you can navigate very, very well with that. But if you're in an area that doesn't have visible terrain features, you really have to be able to rely on your land nav skills, your pace count, and shooting your azimuth and paying attention to your compass. Topographic maps. Thank you, Buck99. Dear Lord, getting old sucks. Yeah, if you live in a mountainous area, any idiot can navigate with a topographical map. But if you live in flat country, you gotta know how to do your land nav, and it's very hard in flat country. I did it in some kind of Boy Scout type. It wasn't Boy Scouts, but it was it was Royal Rangers. I was in Royal Rangers when I was a kid, which is like a Christian pseudo Boy Scouts, and we did it there in a mountainous area, and it was very, very, very easy. And then I did it in the Marine Corps in outside of Camp Lejeune. Oh, budget prepper, interesting choice. You intrigue me, young man. We got to talk about this. And Camp Geiger, outside of Camp Lejeune, is in a floodplain in a salt marsh or whatever the hell they call those, right off the beach. The highest point for 100 miles in any direction is an anthill. And those bastards put two, you would have to navigate to these points, and there would be ammo boxes on these posts, and there'd be numbers on the ammo boxes. And them sons of bitches put two of those things like 20 feet apart right next to each other with two different numbers. And if you hadn't navigated just perfectly, you just had to crapshoot 50-50, pick which one it was. So if you were half-assing it and just trying to get within sight of the damn post, camera's over here, you could still be wrong. Not fortunately, because I was decent at it. I was okay at it. But once I got out of infantry training, I was mounted because the tow gun was always on a Humvee. So we were always doing vehicle navigation. It's bedtime an hour ago. As a younger man, we backpacked the El Dorado National Forest 3 months from Campground 1, Loon Lake to Tahoe. Took 3 months. Did this for years. Well, that's cool. I've never done anything quite like that. Okay, Big Nate Esquire says that I'm right there with you on preps. I haven't done any stockpiling in a couple of years. My cellar is probably in absolute disrepair. Yeah, I'm down to, I am afraid to know what our preps are down to. Okay, let's talk about Budget Prepper Pro's bush gun. And then we can get back to the preps. H&R, that's Harrison and Richardson, or Harrington and Richardson. I can't remember what. 30-30 single shot breech loader. It's fairly flat where I am, mainly woods and farmland. Thank you for the info. It makes me feel good about settling into land nav. All right, so 30-30 Harrington and Richardson. Thank you. Hey, Anarchy Television's here. I have a very, very, very big soft spot in my heart for single shot rifles. For years and years and years, the only rifle I owned was a Ruger #1 in 30-06. It was called the International. It had a kind of a short, not a kind, it had a 16-inch barrel, and the stock went all the way to the end of the barrel. The barrel cap, it was beautiful. They called it the Ruger #1 International. Love that little thing. Had a little bit of a kick to it, just because 30-06. But boy, was it light and handy, and 30-06 in such a short, light package. Because if you know the Ruger #1, it's just a falling block. There's no action. It's a single shot. You know what? I don't even remember how I got that rifle. That's crazy. I remember when I sold it, and I still regret having sold it. But at the time I needed to sell it. I actually sold it to get my first AR-15 because the Religion of Peace was driving trucks through Christmas festivals, and I decided, as much as I liked that single shot 30-06, it was probably not going to cover the totality of things I may or may not need a rifle for someday. But if I'm ever rich, if God ever decides he can trust me with money, which so far I have not proven myself trustworthy, oh, Luke B. Ouch. Okay, Luke B. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Luke, you gotta admit that talking about single shot rifles is different. Oh, I know what I saw the other day that was really interesting. They're bringing the 22 short back. I thought that was really interesting. Okay, Luke. Old timers will remember back when there was a single shot Ruger #1. Oh, I thought you were talking about the I really like the #1. Les's turkeys I got out in the middle of the night. Where were we? I'm very interested in the choice for a single shot rifle. To me, that shows a mature. Is maturity the right word? It certainly shows a clear-headed, clear-eyed thinking about reducing complex. And I know that's not your only rifle, but like you've reduced complexity down to like the bare minimum. There's no moving parts. I guess the only thing you could do. Hey Ryan, the 20. Now I don't know this for sure. I'm speculating. I think the reason why they're bringing back the 22 short. Well, there's two things about the 22 short that's really fun, and you know what? Some things can just be fun, even with firearms. Some things can just be fun. So the 22 short is gonna, with everyone's interest in suppression these days. It's going to suppress well because it's just going to have such a limited case capacity. Not that you couldn't do that with a 22 long rifle, but also what you can do is in a tubular magazine, you can like double and triple. I do have the Jericho still, Luke. It is still my favorite pistol. You can double or triple the capacity on a, and I do also have the Security 6. I don't carry it as much anymore because of the Jericho. You can double or triple the capacity on a tubular magazine with 22 shorts. And especially if you're suppressing, and so you're already going to have an underpowered 22 round, so it'll be subsonic, why not have one that now lets you have double the magazine capacity? Uh, is it a little bit of a gimmick and a toy? Absolutely, but what is wrong with gimmicky toys? I mean, it's it's really really cool. Uh, and then there's some other reasons. If you're none of these are important reasons. I am not saying like you must go buy a 22 short today or you are going to die in the apocalypse. When when the zombies come, if you don't have a suppressed 22 short, you are going to absolutely die. Brah, do you even gun? No. But it is kind of fun, if you're going to be shooting with grandkids or young kids, or maybe you're shooting indoors and uh, uh, yeah, no, Ryan, I mean, it's still a lethal round. The one I was seeing them, Chuck Norris Gun Club's here. How you doing, sir? The one I was seeing them talk about, apparently Remington's re-releasing it. It was a 27 grain bullet, and I want to say it was like 1,100 feet per second. So, I mean, it's, obviously it's not your first choice for hunting Kodiaks. But also you don't want to. You still want to obey all the safety rules. This is a round that will still kill you. Uh, did it again. Got a 2-inch cigar and I can't keep it lit because I can't puff it every minute. Uh, but anywho, I know I'm really impressed with the choice of a single shot rifle. I think it shows level-headed, clear thinking, sort of a dedication to being able to take one effective shot. So you're you're committing to knowing your rifle, you're committing to knowing your round, you're committing to knowing your game so that you can get the right shot placement. Uh, there's a lot that comes along with committing to a single shot rifle. That someone with a 30 round magazine, maybe there's a your rifle's dope if or you should, because that is true. People take a lot of game with bow and arrow every year. That is a skill I never ever learned, and I should. The other skill I don't have that I need to pick up just so that I spend time with my sons is fishing. I have just never been a fisherman. I've done it once or twice in my entire life. And I'm just not good at it. Trapping is a little weird for me, Luke. I'm not a. No, Luke says his wife's 10 times the fisher he is. Because of our religious beliefs, we're not allowed to eat anything that has been killed with the blood still in it. So we would either have to live trap, which is still trapping, or some sort of tangle snare. But we're also not allowed to eat a lot of the things people trap too. So, but you're absolutely right. It still is a good skill to have, especially if you're trying to keep critters away from the chicken coop. The trap. Eating is not the only reason to trap. I have a complicated. That's why we do that. Yeah, I have a complicated relation. No, I shouldn't say relationship. I have a very nuanced belief about what laws have to be kept and who has to keep them, and how they should be kept. Jerry Compton, is there still a market for furs? I don't know. That's a really good question. I know there was when I was a kid because my dad had a friend who raised gray foxes. Mm. but I have no idea what it is anymore. If there is, you know that it's probably being filled overseas by some kind of concrete fur farm in China. Yeah, there's a government bounty on coyote. And how much is the government bounty on coyote in Nevada? Oh, $10 a pelt. You're probably not going to be a professional coyote hunter, but hell, you can pay for your ammo. You could pay for your ammo. But no, Luke brings up a good point. You know, there's only so much we can all talk. I mean, how many different stinking YouTube channels are there, right? There's, even in our relatively small community of gun nuts and preppers and iconoclasts and, you know, weirdos, there's what? Hundreds? I bet there's hundreds, if not thousands, of channels that are exactly like me, as weird as I am. Hey, Dean, how you doing, sir? And we can't all talk about the same 5 pieces of gear nonstop. Thank you, Luke. That's encouraging. I would go so far as to say flattering. And we do. We all talk about the same 5 pieces of gear. I'm convinced that that's at least partially why the AR-15 market is a little bit dried up right now, because everyone's just bored. Yeah, everyone's just bored with the AR-15 right now, except that Franklin Armory may have jazzed it back up. We won't bore you too much with gear talk, Luke, but Franklin Armory, hey, Mike from Montana. Franklin Armory apparently maybe just had a partial win against the ATF, and they're going to be able to, Swamp Yankee, good evening, sir. They're going to be able to start selling some short-barreled ARs with stocks on them that aren't going to meet the qualifications for a short-barreled rifle. They won't have to have the NFA stamp. Mr. Guns and Gear, yeah, the ATF is gay. Mr. Guns and Gear, which is one of the more underappreciated gun channels, in my opinion. He has a video on it, and then he has a follow-up. Apparently, they pulled some of it back. But it sounds like there's absolutely going to be some short-barreled ARs chambered in 5.56 with full stocks that won't need NFA registration. So you won't need the background check, the enhanced background check. You still have to do your regular infringement, but on your rights. But you won't have to do the enhanced infringement on your rights, and it won't need the fee. Oh, cool. You've met him, huh? He's not flashy or showy, but he just always has good, solid information. It seems like, I'm sure he's had some misfires, but everything I hear always seems to pan out. You know, you never get the hyperbole or the, the overblown stuff that maybe I might be prone to sometimes because I'm a little high-strung. He's just very calm, very measured, very steady, puts out good information. The guy's never out there putting tannerite in watermelons or anything, but it's just consistently giving out, not that there's anything wrong with putting tannerite in watermelons. I think it's funny, but you know what I'm trying to say. I've never seen him shoot a bottle of Coke. Anywho. So maybe that rescues the market. I'm this old Luddite. I'm barely past a rifle should be made from steel and walnut phase, and I think short-barreled rifles are silly. But if they can get it in a pistol caliber carbine, then I would start getting very, very excited. But you know what? What I like about it all is just that this company fought the ATF, a systems administrator by trade. I don't even know. Is that like computer systems? I just like that this company had the balls to go out and fight the ATF, I don't know much about Franklin Armory. I know that they did put out a binary trigger. It's not the binary. It's not the one I have. I've got the Fostech, but I think they put out one of the first binary triggers, or one of the most popular ones. Uh, yeah. So I'm really impressed with the company and what they accomplished. Just even having the balls to fight the ATF, being willing to invest that money and the energy and the time to fight the ATF, because that took millions of dollars and significant chunks of their life, and they could have just taken that money and that time and gone to Tahiti. Uh, I'm currently in a project that is implementing my direct replacement. I don't like to talk about it. I believe that means that Luke is working with something that is far more not real than it is smart. Since he doesn't want to talk about it, we won't use the words. That does also say systems administrator sounds like, you know what, we should start calling it real stupid. Instead of artificial intelligence, there I said the word. Sorry. Instead of calling it artificial intelligence, we should call it real stupidity. It's real stupid. So far, artificial intelligence. Now, I'm sure in the background, I'm not making light of this technology. I know it's going to change the world and it's going to put all of us at risk. But so far, it has just been a bust. These AI generated videos are just boring as hell. The AI generated search results are damn near useless. Yeah, I was looking for a plumber recently, and all I got were all these AI generated lists of how to look. All these AI generated articles about how to look for a plumber, and all I wanted was a list of phone numbers for plumbers in the area. Yeah, no, Luke, I'm not making light of it. I'm not smart enough to understand. I don't know what quantum computing is. I've heard the phrase. I know it's. Oh wow, he says Apple's got a big one coming. But so far, and it's just like 5G. 5G was going to boil all of our brains. Hey, budget prepper, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you for stopping in. 5G was going to boil all of our brains. I mean, they had me on. I was so spun up about 5G, I was going to go knock over cell towers. And then it gets here, and I actually ended up having to have a 5G phone for work. So, of course, I was a hypocrite who compromised and got the 5G phone from work. And it wasn't strong enough to get a text message out any more than the 4G phone I'd been using. But it's just like you got to be a little bit careful with the panic, right? Because it's just like my favorite example of scientists and technology and all these people is always the nuclear bomb. Luke's got a crazy question. I can't wait to hear this. Send it, Luke. Is when they first made the nuclear bomb, the theory of the short season. I have not heard this theory of the short season yet. What is that? Unless it's the grand solar minimum, in which case I am all in. But tell us what the short season is. When they first made the nuclear bomb, there was a small group of voices of the experts who thought that if they ever set one off, that it would start a chain reaction in the atmosphere that burned up all of the oxygen around the whole globe, and everyone would die. And allegedly, I don't know how much this is apocryphal or how much of this is true. It's too good of a story to give up, so I'm not going to look into it. But allegedly, all of the experts working on the Manhattan Project looked into this and said, well, we can't 100% rule it out, but we think it's unlikely. Oh, I have heard this. I haven't looked too much into it yet. So So they were willing to do the nuclear bomb, even though they knew there was a non-zero chance that they were literally going to wipe out all life on Earth. Just in the testing phase, like forget about nuclear war, just like the testing phase, this technology might actually not spontaneously combust, but well, maybe I guess it is spontaneously combust. Spontaneously combust all the breathable oxygen throughout the whole planet. We all die. And they did it anyway. And then it didn't happen. So you've got these idiots who will do things even though they don't know 100% of what they're talking about. The worst possible projected outcomes rarely ever actually happen, but they do sometimes happen. I am convinced that this is the lesson of the Tower of Babel, right? Where these idiots get together and decide that they're going to build something, that they're going to deploy their skills and their resources, and they're going to build something that rivals God. And God said, no, you're not. So anyway, let's take a look at this short season. Okay, the theory that the Messiah has already returned and the first rapture has already happened, and we're the souls that are living during the time after the millennial reign of Jesus. We're the souls that get a second chance to live and accept Christ. As in, most of Revelation's already happened. The last thing is the end. Oh yeah, Chuck Norris is talking about the solar grand minimum. That's the one I'm all in on. Oh wow, Matthew Fain worked with a physicist who'd worked on the Manhattan Project. That would have been fascinating. The Sasquatch is here. Boogity. Sasquatch, how you feeling, brother? It's good to hear from you. For those of you who, yeah, the Sasquatch is real. Maybe missed it. The Sasquatch is the one who has allowed me to adopt that 357 lever action Rossi. He that was his, and he knew how much I liked it, and he just has let me permanently adopt it, for which I am forever grateful. And the Sasquatch knew someone who knew Oppenheimer. Okay, so the short season. I haven't done the deep dive on this. Here's my first thought is that we're told that when Christ's second coming, he's going to split the eastern sky. And when he does, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. It's like he's not going to sneak it by us. And in fact, we're kind of warned by Christ himself that, in the last days, people are going to say, oh, the Messiah's over here. Oh, the Messiah's over here. Oh, the Messiah can't. And that we're not supposed to fall for that, because when he comes, it's going to be hard to miss. Well, that's a really good counter argument, Luke. That yeah, he does get set loose for a time, and he does get to deceive the nations for a while. It's an interesting theory. I personally, I would be skeptical. I would have to, look and see who came up with this theory. What are the fruits in that person's life? What is being achieved around them? And then I would really have to be able to sit down with their ideas and compare it to the scripture. And that's an extraordinary claim that would require extraordinary evidence. But it is an interesting one. It is definitely unique. It is definitely unique. I have heard it just like briefly someone mentioned it, probably within the last year is the first time I've ever heard about it. Sasquatch was friends with Randy Macho Man Savage. Yeah, some Thomas level evidence. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I would need to stick my fingers in those wounds and really know for sure. Not the craziest things I've heard recently, though. I've been doing some deep dives on some stuff, and I have been swimming in some shallow waters recently. I never want to. I I try to not let religion sneak into the. I shouldn't say sneak. I try to heavily ration the amount of religion I allow into the regular videos. These live streams, we can talk about anything in these live streams, but I try to keep the main videos really really focused on masculinity and masculine issues, because if people start thinking you're trying to convert them and proselytize them, they tune you out, as well they should, because anyone who's trying to convert you, that's a really high stakes game, and lots of people forget the morality they're trying to sell you while they're trying to sell it to you. Most people, when they're trying to sell you a morality, forget all of the moral points of that morality while they're selling you the morality. And so the occasional times when I do decide to let the religion over onto the regular videos, partially because those videos should just have a higher standard. What the hell did you do now? A young age. You're my new favorite viewer, Luke. I turned 50 here in a week, 2 weeks. Okay, to answer your question, concussion, fire, and aft. Couple more broken ribs, bruised scapula, collarbone, and shoulder, wrenched my back again. Sasquatch, brother. I'm assuming that means you fell. I'll give you a call and get an update. You turned 40 in December. I'm even more young. Luke, my 40s were the best decade of my life to date. Oh, God, Sasquatch. At least you were somewhere public. Unless you were up at your mailbox, in which case the street is the exact opposite of public. No, my 40s have been a fantastic decade. I'm 49 in this exact moment. I am hopeful that my 50s are at least as good as my 40s. But you got to assume at some point you start aging. But these have been the most productive years of my life, the most satisfying, the most rewarding. I feel like a lot of, not all of course, but a lot of the foolishness that had me in such constant turmoil through my 20s and 30s has at least now I can see my foolishness and sort of I'll accommodate it, make allowances for it, try to work around myself a little bit, where back in my 20s and 30s I just couldn't understand why these things keep happening to me, and now in my 40s I'm like, oh hey, you dumbass, you have these strengths, you have these weaknesses, you gotta, people don't think the same things are funny that you think are funny. What do you think? Can I get one more little puff out of it? Should we light it one more time? We're gonna light it one more time. Walking pneumonia. Yeah, that kills a lot of people. So yeah, the 40s have been great. I'm very, very, very optimistic about my 50s. I feel like, I'm still in my strength to a degree. I'm not as strong as I was when I was, 28, 29, but I'm still strong. I'm a little wiser. I'm hoping that a slowly decreasing strength is offset by a rapidly increasing wisdom. Plus, I've got grown sons now. I just don't have to be that strong anymore. I've got I've got sons that can do anything I can do anyway, and multiples of them. I've got a 25-year-old son, a 21-year-old son, a 16-year-old son, and a 13-year-old son, and I got a couple more below that that are coming on. Uh, I don't have to act like I'm the lone wolf that has to be the you know the towering paragon standing on the hill. I can call these young bucks up and say, hey, go handle the light work for me, buddy. I got. Yeah, Big Nate. So he says my 40s have been good too. I'm only having issues with paying for the mistakes I made in my 20s and 30s. Yeah, my 40s though have been, and it was my late 40s. I want to say it was probably 3 years ago now that I finally sort of got the worst of the financial burdens lifted. That was left over from those years. Luke screwed his oldest will be 18 in 4 years. Oh, look at Canadian Arctic Radio. By the way, good to see you, sir. I don't think we've seen Canadian Arctic Radio in a while, who we will from now on affectionately call CAR because it's so long to say Canadian Arctic Radio. We used to talk to him a fair amount, and it is good to see him again. He says, I don't know, I'm turning 54 and I feel better than my 40s. Wow. I didn't. Chuck Norris says, I'm 52 and I feel like this sucks. I will say there are some things that I have noticed, where I'm definitely not what I used to be. So I probably do need to start paying a little bit better attention to my diet, a little bit more attention to cardio. Maybe walking a little bit. Like one of the things I've noticed is we heat this house with firewood, and I've split firewood since I was 9 years old. I'm just really good at it. Excuse me. But in the past, they lied in the retirement brochure. Yeah, Sasquatch has had a rough retirement. He's a young man too. I used to be able to just quit splitting firewood in the spring, and then I pick the splitting maul back up in the fall, and it's like I never set it down. And now when I pick the maul back up in the fall, I have to go slow and work back into it. And I probably going forward, I'll probably have to not quit. I'll probably have to come up with some way to keep swinging the splitting maul year round, because it takes me too long to get back up into shape in the fall. I just don't maintain that. Or you could buy a log splitter. Yeah, I could buy a log splitter, but man, they're like $1,500 and they're slow as Christmas. That's what I hate about them. Is that you pull that handle and it's some of those cylinders. It literally takes them 15 seconds to cycle. So from the time you hit the lever, it takes 15 seconds to back up, and you've got one split. Whereas when I'm going good, I can, in 15 seconds, I can swing 10 times if the piece of wood needs me to swing 10 times. Well, maybe not 10 times. Let's 5. I don't know what a kinetic log splitter is. Woo! Mike says his shoulder replacement cost $73,000. Whoa! And his copay was $6,600. What is a kinetic log splitter, Matthew? Sasquatch is saying 59. Sadly, ain't all that young. Yeah, no, Sasquatch. I tell you, what is Luke doing himself? Oh yeah, I'll never get to retire. Yeah, he was born in '85. I'll never get to retire. Well, we should talk about that. Oh, it works on a flywheel. Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about, Matthew. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've seen those. Uh, one of the things that got Sasquatch is that he's just a big man. How tall are you, Sasquatch? 6'5"? Yeah, he's just a big guy, big frame, and everything big men do is just wear and tear on their damn bodies. Those little short trim guys, maybe they feel a little inadequate when they're young, but boy, do they age great because they just have not been putting all those stresses on their heart and all that stress on their joints. Big Nate at 44's got sons at 24, 21, and 19. Oh, Sasquatch is 6'6". Yeah, he's a big man. See, Big Nate, I wish I had started earlier. My first child was born at 23. And I wish I had started, 20 would have been good. All right, did I let it go out again? There ain't nothing left. Oh, there it is. No, and Sasquatch is the run of his litter. There we go. I still got a little bit. It's about to start singeing my mustache hairs, though. That's usually when I quit, is when I start hearing the mustache hairs go. But this is my last one, and it's probably going to be my last one for a week or two, so... Ooh, Matthew's got a doctor for a son. Well done, sir. First son at 18. Yeah, I still have the polymer lower on that AR-15. I wish I could show guns on live streams. I'd go get it. But if you show a gun on a live stream, they dump the live stream on you. If you handle the gun, I'm sorry. If you handle a firearm on a live stream, they dump the live stream. And when I found out why, it actually makes sense, because people were like committing suicide, committing crimes on live streams. And I was shocked when I finally found a YouTube gun rule that made sense. But anywho, yeah, I still have that polymer lower. It is my main, rifle I grab if I need to grab a rifle, which, fortunately, I've never had to grab a rifle for anything worse than possums in the chicken coop. Just had to shoot a couple of dogs, and that's it, because I chose to live in a good place. But still got it, still like it, haven't had a problem one with it yet. I do want to put the captured buffer spring in it at some point. I think that would be a really interesting little experiment. So Matthew just finished his first lower and thinking about going 300 blackout. Or 300 hammer. 300 hammer. I'm not as familiar with 300 hammer. I've heard about it, but I don't really know anything about it. Luke's having a mini insurgency war with the raccoons. Brother, if you can get a Pyrenees, if you're okay with big hairy dogs, I haven't had furry critter one move on this place since I got Pyrenees. Now, mine let the other dogs around, but anything other than dogs, it doesn't move on this place. They even keep hawks away. It's amazing. But yeah. Sasquatch has been with us for a very long time. He knows about my antipathy for all things commie. And one of the things that just, hey, Eric Catherine. That's an interesting last name, Eric. I'm assuming, or is it Eric and Catherine? Uh, I have a almost irrational, what's the right word? I don't want to say hatred. I have an almost irrational reaction to the AK-47, the AKM. It's Eric Catherine. That's an interesting name. Oh yeah, no, the Pyrenees. I mean, coyotes won't mess with them. The last coyote we ever saw here was when our Pyrenees finally got mostly grown, and my stepdaughter saw she saw a coyote running about 100 miles an hour up the road, with that Pyrenees behind him at about 105 miles an hour, and that's the last one we've seen. Yeah, no, my whole thing is, oh yeah, no, Luke, the National Guard. Oh man, we used to make fun of them when I was on active duty, because there was 95 through 99. But with the global war on terror, the National Guard absolutely cranked it up a notch, and they were kind of on a constant, especially after the surge in 2004. You know what? I do have a tiny, tiny, tiny little soft spot for the SKS. A tiny soft spot. But yeah, no, the National Guard is a different institution than it was prior to, say, 2004. Good pay for college by working on Army trucks stateside. No sirree, Bob. Not in the early 2000s. Yeah, no, the SKS, I have a little bit of a soft spot for the SKS, mostly just because our Canadian brothers can own it, and that gives me hope, because it's not, with a little bit of ingenuity, the SKS can be turned into an acceptable tactical option. And maybe, we don't need to say any more about that, just so our Canadian brethren don't have to worry about their communist overlords getting worried about it. But the SKS can be turned into they did this thing to us in boot camp, Luke, where we had just come back in from something. I don't know. This was second phase of boot camp, and they set us free in the squad bay during the day, and which never happened. You were never like set free during the day. And they kind of set us free in the squad bay for a second, and all the drill instructors went into the drill instructor hut, and we hear some yelling and some muffled, I wouldn't say screams, but like some hollering and stuff. And then one of the drill instructors comes out of the hut, and he's like, I can't remember what he said, but it was something like, "I've got a family" or something, and he storms out. And the junior drill instructor comes out, and he says, I can't remember what he did, but he like made us sit on our foot lockers or something and be quiet. And then the second one came out and started yelling at us and told us to make sure our canteens were filled or something like that. I'm pulling up. This was 30 years ago, so I'm pulling these from memories from deep in the vault. And then the senior drill instructor comes out a few minutes later and says, "Well, recruits, this was back during the only thing going on at the time was Bosnia." And he said something about the Serbs have done it again. The balloon's gone up. The Russians are moving. Yeah, we are all badasses. The Russians are moving, and we've been. Hey, Lance Corporal veteran, how you doing, sir? We've been called up. Your training's getting cut short. We're going to Camp Lejeune for a week, and then we're shipping overseas for Europe. We're going to be a provisional rifle company, or I'm sorry, provisional rifle platoon. And he said, "Pack all your shit." And then he went back in the drill instructor hut, and there were guys who started like blubbering, uh, and they're like, "No, I can't do it. I didn't sign up for this, man." And I was like, "Buddy, you literally signed up for this. I mean, like, this is exactly what you signed up for." Uh, and then probably 10 minutes, or not even 10 minutes, a few minutes later, all the drill instructors come back, including the first one who'd stormed out, and they're like, that was a drill. That wasn't real. We just wanted to, and then there was this big class about how, this is what you signed up for, which I thought it was like a little juvenile. After the fact, while it was going on, I was all, "Oh my God, we're going to Europe, and the balloon's gone up. We're going, I was a stupid young man. But then afterwards, I'm like, well, that was kind of silly, but it wasn't a terrible lesson. Yeah, that was it, Lance Corporal Veteran. I'm sure it's something they do on purpose. I bet it maybe just gets passed down from drill instructor to drill instructor. But I have heard about other people going through the exact same thing in boot camp at around the same time, where they were like, "The balloon's got up. Pack your shit. We're going to war." And then the results are yeah. I remember. I don't remember if there were tears, but it was like the next thing. There was like guys that were literally having meltdowns. Oh my God, we're going. No, man, I can't go to war. I didn't sign up for this shit. It's just like, buddy, this is exactly what you signed up for. Did you not watch a single recruiting video? I mean, was the rifle not a dead giveaway? Why do you think you've been getting screamed at day and night for 2 months? This is not necessary for whatever your MOS is. But you know what? I'm sure it was a couple of guys who were, commo nerds or something. Not that there's anything wrong with commo nerds. I'm just saying, these were probably guys who had enlisted under, air wing MOSs or something. And suddenly they're being told, no, you're about to be a provisional rifleman and you're going to be on the front lines. And, like I enlisted infantry. They had offered me some technical, believe it or not, I did pretty good on the ASVAB. I scored a 95 on the ASVAB. And so they had been trying to get me, they wanted me to be an ejection seat repairman. So I would go into the air wing and work on ejection seats for aircraft. And when the recruiter kind of handed me the MOS and he said, "This is what I think you should do," I was like, well, that just sounds boring. And the recruiter looks at me and he goes, "That's my MOS." I was like, oh, sorry. And my recruiter at the time was a gunny. He was a gunnery sergeant in E7. I don't know what he was doing on recruiter duty in our little hole-in-the-wall recruiting station. But he didn't like me anymore after that. Unfortunately, he left pretty quick, and the next recruiter was actually a tow gunner. Marine Airman or peak human. I loved being a tow gunner. Sasquatch, absolutely the best job in the Marine Corps, back then at least, was tow gunner. Nothing was better, man. Especially because I was a tow gunner in a tank battalion. And of course, if you've ever worked with tankers, if any of you are tankers, I apologize. Tankers are they're just their own little animal. I can't explain tankers to you. I spent 4 years at Tank Battalion. I loved Tank Battalion, but tankers are something else. Yeah, that's the wire. That was the wire-guided missile loop. Very, very cool missile. Now they're fire and forget. They're boring now, but, well, not boring, but, back then you would shoot the missile. There'd be this huge boom, this huge signature, this giant puff of smoke, big flash. There's this missile streaking through the air, and you just got to sit there for 30 seconds and, guide it the whole way. The whole way in, you're guiding it with just the biggest signature on the battlefield. Oh yeah, uh, I got to ride in a helicopter once. It was a CH-53, the Sea Stallion, and that's what they told us. They said, "Hey, watch that leak." And we looked at it, and he said, "If it stops leaking, you let me know, because it means it's out of fluid and we're gonna die." It's like, you sons of bitches, stop it. But one of the most terrified I've ever been, being a Frito band to scout attached to the Tow Bunnies, rocked hardcore. Yeah, the being a tow gunner was awesome. When we were getting off of that CH-53, it was in the middle of the night. We were doing it was some kind of training mission where we were doing some sort of night insertion. So they had slung one of the Humvees up underneath the helicopter, and they had put us, obviously we were in the helicopter, and we were doing this night insertion with total light discipline. And if you have never seen the CH-53, it's massive. It's this huge thing, and it's got this giant tail rotor that's offset, and it is offset if you're so you exit the helicopter to the back. There's this ramp that drops down, and you go out the back of the helicopter, and there's this giant tail rotor right there, just and it's just overpoweringly loud. And they tell you, when you come off the helicopter, don't turn right. Don't turn right. Go left, go straight, but don't go right. Because if you go right, you're going to just walk right into the tail rotor, and you're going to die. And you won't even know that you know. So, like, it's all in our minds. Don't go right. Don't go right. Don't go right. And so we come into the LZ to land. Remember, this was training. This wasn't the real deal. We land in the LZ. We sit down. They drop the tailgate, whatever the hell it is, and they're like, "Go, go, 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 go!" We're all lined up waiting to unass this bird. And there was a little Lance Corporal up front, or PFC something. He was a junior guy up front, and he was frozen. He wasn't moving, and we start screaming at him, because that's what you do. And we're like, "Go, go!" And he's like, "Is it left or is it right? Is it left or is it right?" And we all knew that you had to go left, not right. But when that kid froze up and he didn't know, suddenly all of us froze up, and none of us had the balls, I guess, to just take a stand and say, "Go left, go left, go left." And so the crew chief is screaming at us. The pilot's up front, because he's supposed to be like just touching down and taking off. This is supposed to just be boom, 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 boom. And so finally, I was a corporal at the time, but I was a junior corporal. And finally, I was like, "God damn it." And so I went to the front of the line, and I'm screaming at the guy, "It's left, it's left, it's left." And he won't go. So I go out the bottom. And as soon as you stepped out of the back of the bird, this tail rotor was completely overpowering. Like, you couldn't hear. All you could hear was this tail rotor. But it was so overwhelming that you couldn't tell if it was to the left or the right. It sounded like you were in the middle of it. And I lost it. Suddenly at that point, I'm like, "Oh my God, is it left or is it right?" And I couldn't remember. I mean, I knew. I was like, "Okay, it's left." "Zach, go left, go left." So I turned left, and I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And this whole time I'm fighting with myself. And I visibly clinch up. I feel myself tense up, and I step forward and fall, and I don't die. And I'm like, "Oh, thank God." And I take off to the left, and everyone follows me, and we get off the helicopter. And in one way, it was one of the prouder moments of my service, because I felt like, you showed leadership, you took charge. But then the very next thought that came to my head is, you weren't sure. There was some doubt. There was doubt in my mind, and I still stepped. I still took that step. Why? Why? Why didn't I just run in a straight line as far as I could until I heard something? Uh, it was a really interesting little moment. I don't have a lot of answers for why did I take that step even though I wasn't 100% sure that I wasn't about to step into a tail rotor of a CH-53. And why was I questioning it? I mean, I knew it was, I left, but I don't know. It was this, hey, Paul Meadows with us. How you doing, sir? It was this really interesting little moment that has stuck with me, will stick with me. That'll be one of those, once my memory goes, God forbid I ever get dementia or Alzheimer's, please God defend me from that fate. But if I ever got dementia or Alzheimer's, I bet you that moment would be one of the last memories I lost, because it was a very impactful moment. Paul Meadow, how you doing, brother? We stirred up some papists. I'm getting some ugly comments about my Sola Scriptura video. But anywho, those were good times. I was a much younger, much dumber man. I think I would have been 20. I should have been 23, 24 when that happened. Also, that same night, I left my gas mask on the Humvee, on the hood of the Humvee that was slung underneath the helicopter. So my gas mask fell off the Humvee somewhere in flight. And I just went ahead and turned it in and took the hit. And I had to pay for the lost gas mask. And I'm very glad I did, because then there was this giant scandal, and I kid you not, it was a giant base-wide scandal. So I did get out before the global war on terror, Luke, but then I got recalled right after the towers fell down. Well, I'm sorry, right after September 11th. I got recalled. And so I spent another year in but I didn't deploy. I just did enhanced base security at Quantico for a year. I wish I would have deployed. I got in so much trouble in that year. It was not a good year. Many of the negative things that happened in my life after that had some of their genesis in that year I spent in Quantico. So I technically did serve in the global war on terror, but it was completely stateside. But I got some really cool ribbons out of it. I've got the reserve medal with the M for mobilization, which I think no one had gotten that since like Vietnam or something, or maybe they had gotten it in the first Gulf War. Anyway, it was a pretty rare. It was also a pain in the ass, because you did this little tiny M, and you had to glue it on the ribbon, and it was a total pain in the ass, because you couldn't buy the ribbon with the award on it. You had to glue the award on yourself. But anyway, where was I going with all that? Oh, I don't remember. Someone said something that I was going to use that to illustrate some point, and then I forgot. There's a good chance that you'd be an alcoholic if you gotten deployed. Well, yeah, if I'd have gone to, there's some cool things on Quantico. It's a terrible place to be stationed at. I enlisted I shipped for boot camp in 1995. So the first Gulf War had ended in 89, I think, or 90. So I served, a lot of the Marines I served with had been in the first Gulf War. But there wasn't a whole lot going on for that little interim period. Got bored and ate a buck for money. That sounds like something the Marines do. So my deployments were, I went to Haiti. I did a med float, and on that med float, we went to Bosnia and technically Kosovo. So those were my two deployments. It gets lonely at night, Luke. What happens in the field stays in the field. When I first got in, we were still, Kosovo. Yeah, I was on the trap team for it was a tactical recovery of aircraft and personnel. They did this big air mission when Kosovo first started. I think it was NATO, but it could have been the UN, but I think it was NATO. As a kid, shut up, Luke. Where they flew all these aircraft down the border of Serbia, and if any of them had gone down, we would have been helicoptered in. They said they were going to single point sling us, which is kind of scary because we were going to be in the helicopters. Listen to me. We were going to be in the Humvees, and they said they were going to single point us. Which, if a load starts spinning the wrong way underneath a helicopter, they've got to drop it because it can counteract the rotors and make the whole helicopter fall. And they can spin on a it's that exact scenario, Luke B. There was I can't remember the guy's name, but a pilot got shot down or went down earlier than this. I think his name was Scott something or other. And he spent like almost a week evading. The Serbians were trying to catch him, and then the trap team went in and got him, and it's that same. Actually, I knew some guys who were on that trap team because it was actually some. No, I wasn't there for that one, but it was the similar. It was the same. It would have been the same situation had it happened. But I did know some guys who were on that trap team because it was actually a mortar platoon who got tasked to do at least a portion of that mission, and I think they were the ones who actually liaisoned with the pilot. I can't remember the exact story now, but yeah, I met this guy who had been on that trap team. And he either was the one who actually helped, meet the pilot, or they were doing some sort of perimeter defense. Had it been us, had we had to go in, we would have been a perimeter defense. So they were gonna helicopter us in, set the trucks down, and then the birds were gonna go on standby, and then we would go and secure any access points to the crash site. While they brought in people to recover the aircraft and the pilot, and then we would fall back in on some extraction point, and they would pull us out. Is this the Coast Guard channel? I like the Coast Guard actually. That's the one branch of the service my family hasn't served in is the Coast Guard, and the Space Force. Now we haven't had anyone in the Space Force yet. But so yeah, had it happened, it would have been a very, very cool thing. But obviously, you don't actually want anything to happen. Good to see you too, Mr. Luciano. No, the Coast Guard's the real deal. You can't fight a hurricane. And these sons of bitches, they go out in some stuff that is absolutely blood-curdling. So the Special Forces guys we would have worked with, so it depends on how you count the British Royal Marines. Some people will say that they're Special Forces. We did work with them. I did not personally think they met the level of special forces. They were very good. Of all of the militaries I worked with in Europe, and we worked with almost all of them, uh, the Royal Marines were the best by a long shot, by a very long shot. The second best were the Polish, uh, and I know we all want to tell Polak jokes now, but we only worked with a very small unit of Poles, uh, but they were very, very, very good. Uh, obviously we worked with our SEALs a couple of times, and one of the most impressive physical feats I've ever seen a man perform. I watched two SEALs do. I never worked with like any of the Delta guys or anything. We were rubbing elbows with the recon guys a lot. Uh, yeah, so I don't want to be too hard on our Navy brethren and our Coast Guard brethren, but the dumbest thing I've ever seen in the military is Navy camouflage, because you know it's not the sailor's uniform that's going to get that ship noticed in the middle of the ocean. And if I'm a sailor and I fall overboard, the last thing I want to be in is blue camouflage. I want to be in day glow orange, you know? I mean, put me in rainbow flags. You dress me up like Bozo the Clown. You sons of bitches better be able to find me floating in that fucking ocean. You're going to put me in digital blue camouflage and then, you know, risk me going overboard or the boat sinking, and suddenly no one can find me because I'm camouflaged in the middle of the damn ocean. Who the hell thought of that? That has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Hey, you know it'd be cool if we couldn't find our guys when they were flailing around in the middle of the ocean. Anyway, I still have a lot of respect for the Coast Guard, and the Navy impressed me a couple of times too. Uh, we when we were in the Med, I've told this story before, so I'm sorry if I'm boring you. A container ship blew up in the middle of the Mediterranean. The ship I was on was the closest ship to it, so we responded to the SOS, and they let us go up on the flight deck. It was an aircraft carrier, one of the small ones, the VTOL ones, the USS Wasp. And so they let us go up on the flight deck to see this container ship, and it was it was a big ship. It wasn't as big as the aircraft carrier, but it wasn't crazy smaller, and it just looked like the gates of hell had been opened up on this ship. This just black royal and smoke and flames everywhere. And there had been an honest to God explosion because all these shipping containers were floating around in the water. They let the Cobra pilots go up and shoot the containers all to sink them. And you never talk to the pilots because they're a different animal. But I talked to some of the air crew for the helicopters, and they said, yeah, it was the greatest day of those pilots' lives. They just spent all day long shooting shipping containers with whatever the Gatling gun is there. It's not a Gatling gun, but you know what I'm saying, on the Cobra. But I was looking at this ship thinking, holy shit. And they had, well, anyway, all I know is that when we went back down, there were some sailors down there in the gangway fighting, like literally almost in a fist fight, shoving match over who was going to get to go over to the other ship and do damage control and try to put out the fire. And I was like, all right, fair play. You guys, we like to give you a lot of shit, but it takes some balls to go over to a burning ship and fight fires. Because, all right, Luke, good luck with the daddy duties. Because I'm sorry, there's very few phrases in the English language less accurate than the phrase firefighter. You don't fight fires. That's not a fight, you know. You maybe try to contain fires, you maybe try to, you know, control fires, but you don't fight fires. And they did. They went over there. That ship looked like I said, the gates of hell had opened up in the middle of it. They rescued. I don't remember how many people they rescued. It wasn't a huge crew. There was like 20 some odd people on the ship or something. And I think we rescued like 9 of them. And one guy was dead, and a couple were badly wounded or injured. So those sailors kind of, I mean, it was just impressive. You know, it was really cool. I tell that story a lot too. See, now here's the problem with turning 50, is that I have not had an adventure in a very long time. And I do not have any new stories to tell. I need new stories to tell. The problem is I'm too old and out of shape to have adventures. But I need to take up a hobby that's interesting or something. I can't. My glory days can't have been 30 years ago now at this point. Yeah, yeah. Fireproof, firefighter. These are not real terms. These are not descriptive phrases that convey useful information to you. Nothing is fireproof. Everything burns. It all burns. It all burns. And like I said, you can't shoot a fire. You shoot a fire all you want. It won't respond at all. So you don't fight a fire. But anywho, what had we? There was somebody had. Oh yeah! Wow! Seen concrete melt. That's crazy. What happens when I fall overboard? Exactly. You float around in the middle of the ocean in camouflage. Ah. Oh, Sasquatch says, yeah, the Royal Marine Commandos are the shit. They were very, very good. Like I said, they were the best military I worked with. But they didn't have that quiet. So the Royal Marines reminded me very much of us. I mean, like we really meshed well. Of course, we claimed them as one of our heritage, and there's a lot of cross pollination between our Marines and their Marines. But I felt like that they were on our level. And as much as I love my Marine Corps, I'm not, silly or arrogant enough to claim that we're special forces. We're just very, 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 very good light infantry. I would go so far as to say the best light infantry. Sorry, Palmetto. When Palmetto paratroopers served with, what was it, the 82nd Palmetto or the 101st? I can never remember, but Palmetto would say that they're the best light infantry. And maybe we could argue about the definition of light infantry if we needed to. But anywho, there was something we were supposed to be talking about. Oh, well, I don't want to be... Palmetto says that he looked at the FOB, forward operating base he was stationed at in Afghanistan on Google Maps, and you can still see where my FO drove an MRAP through the perimeter. I'm trying to think what FO would be. What's FO, Palmetto? Anywho. So, we were supposed to be talking about what has happened to the prepping community in recent years, because it really feels like the prepping community has gotten really, really quiet. I know a couple of Gurkha who would disagree with you, Zach. That Those Gurkhas, I never worked with those Gurkhas, but I've heard that they're pretty good. Uh, their knives are cool, but you don't hear much about prepping anymore. Maybe it's just my algorithm. You know, at one point I had decided I was prepped. I said I'm not a prepper anymore. I'm prepped. And at that time I was. For anything that I thought was likely to have to happen, I was prepared. But my preparedness was based on the very large garden we did every year, and I foolishly thought that I had achieved perpetual motion. Uh, that's actually true, Lance Corporal Veteran. Preppers all became homesteaders, and got rich selling products. That is 100% true. And I think it's kind of a natural progression. You know, if if you're going to start getting into the prepper mindset, and by the way, I think I still think it's a good mindset to have. I don't, when I say I don't necessarily prep anymore, that doesn't mean I don't think it's a bad idea or not important. Uh, like I said, I just, for a while, I thought I was prepped because I had our food production situation to a point where I was, you know, very, very comfortable that I could keep my people alive on the food we could produce. But that is a system that has to be maintained, and I did not maintain my system. So I'm not back to zero on it. You know, we could fire it back up pretty easy, but yeah, we would have to fire it back up. But what I came to realize was that we had a half-acre garden, and on that half-acre garden, I could raise enough beans and sweet potatoes to keep everybody alive. And then we could fill in around the edges with other stuff. But our staple diet could be beans and sweet potatoes, and we wouldn't starve to death. And if I'd ever gotten peanuts, and again, the peanuts will grow and grow great and be fine, but I had never gotten the process of harvesting them down really well. And if we'd been able to add effective peanut crops, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of food. Then I actually would have been. Wes S. Wes S. always pops in with the big wisdomisms. To live from your garden, you have to live off your garden. Exactly. You gotta be willing to eat what you grow. You gotta grow what you eat. But a lot of what you grow is determined by where you live, and so you have to be willing to eat what will grow in your area. Fortunately, you know, I love sweet potatoes. Uh, yeah, Lance Corporal Veterans Channel is all gardening on a hillside. I love sweet potatoes, and I don't mind beans as long as they're not green beans. I don't like green beans. But yeah, you can grow a lot of beans and a lot of sweet potatoes on a very shockingly small amount of ground. And we actually could have gotten two sweet potato crops a year in. And then of course beans, you know, they just go till you stop letting them go. It is shocking how many beans you can grow on a small amount of dirt, and how well they preserve with just drying them. You just dry them and put them in a bucket, and we've opened buckets of beans, and they weren't even, so these were like buckets we got from a bakery that had icing in them. So they were food grade buckets, but they were second hand buckets, and you know, the lids had been opened, and we just filled these things with beans. Didn't do anything else. We didn't put anything else in there. No liners, no absorbers, nothing. just filled them with beans, put the lid back on the beans, and put the bucket under the house. And then at one point, I pulled all the buckets out from underneath the house, and that bucket sat out in the yard for probably 3 or 4 years. And we opened the bucket, and the beans were still good. Lance Corporal Veteran says he can't grow more beans than the gophers can eat them. I don't know why I don't have problems with gophers. We don't have problems in the garden at all with pets. You know, the rabbits will get in there, but they don't do a whole lot of damage. And then one year, I think we had a deer that was coming in and eating the watermelons. We would find watermelons that had been smashed. It looked like it had probably would have had to have been a deer. But that was it. That's the only lot. Now, there's a beetle that we have that's bad that will get loose in the beans. And it was gophers are of the devil. And it was just, we call it the bean beetle. That's probably its name. I don't know. And if we didn't spend a lot of time fighting, because we didn't use pesticides, so we would have to go through and kill all the bean beetles by hand. And if you didn't spend a lot of time killing the bean beetles, they would get out of hand in a heartbeat, and then you would have trouble. And then the Japanese beetles too are, yeah, they're pretty destructive. And then we had real good luck with okra. Yes, the Japanese beetles, metallic and shiny, they are also of the devil. That's the one thing I've actually ever treated here with chemicals. They were so bad on my apple tree that they were actually eating the apples. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to just use chemicals 1 year, hopefully knock these things in the head, never have to mess with them again. And I did. They were swarming that apple tree, and I got a powerful chemical, sprayed the shit out of the whole tree, all around the tree, everything I could find. And it worked. I haven't had a bad Japanese beetle problem after that. Now, the tree died from other causes. I'm not sure why the tree died. Maybe it was all the pesticides I sprayed all over it. Who knows? It wasn't DDT. I want to say it was, because you can't get DDT in America anymore. What was I using? Oh, I don't remember, but it was pretty stout stuff. I had a pest control license at the time, and I had a sprayer, and I had the good chemicals. So I went ahead and it's like, screw this. I'm solving this problem. And I did. I might have actually even, I may have actually even used a termite treatment. I know do we have gophers? No, we have groundhogs. We have groundhogs and moles. We might not have gophers. Surely we have gophers. I don't think we do, though. I don't think we have gophers. The chickens would do some damage. The chickens would get up in the tomato plants and just absolutely destroy the tomato plants. Yeah. But then tomatoes, for some reason, just quit doing anything for us. Like they stopped producing. We just wouldn't do well for whatever reason. We didn't ever kind of figure it out. They did great for a few years and then just nothing. Couldn't get them to grow. The ones that did grow, didn't produce well, and they would die early. Lance Corporal Veteran, I have a football-sized rat in my washroom. It went after my rice and my corn seeds. I put those in buckets and waiting for it to starve and leave. Rats are unlikely to leave, Lance Corporal Veteran. So if it's in your washroom, This was my job. This has been my job for the last 5 years. It is no longer my job, but it had been my job for the last 5 years. So if it's in your washroom, by which I think you mean the laundry room, you want to check your dryer vent and make sure it's not coming in through your dryer vent. And depending on what if you're on a crawl space, then they're probably in your crawl space, and they're coming up through the plumbing penetrations. And actually, if that's what's going on, the solution is kind of easy. You're going to go to the hardware store, and you're going to get what are called throw packs, and they're just rat poison in little plastic bags, and you just throw them. Oh yeah, chickens are great rat killers, and you're going to throw those throw packs all over that crawl space, as long as like cats and dogs can't get in there, or as long as cats and dogs you care about can't get in there. Yeah, dryer vent tube ripped up, and the vent tube doesn't have a screen. I ordered one. Yeah, so that's where he's coming in at. So if you fix that problem, you might actually, I use claymores, you might actually solve it right there. Well, if you're on a crawl space and not a slab, I would just go ahead and throw those green cubes all out in the crawl space. Just pitch them in every corner. Technicians can't do that, but you can do it as the homeowner. And then the rats will find them, and generally they drag them back down. You're on a slab. Okay. So you can get bait stations. That's what they're called, and they're just these plastic boxes that you then put the green tubes in, or the green cubes in, and they lock, and you can put them around the house. And that way you can have the poison outside where the rats can find it, but dogs and cats and kids can't get into it. And if you go online on Amazon, look up the B and C bait station, and they're about $6 a piece if you can buy a crate, a box of 6 of them. And then you got to get the poison itself comes separate, and it's just those green cubes, but you want the green cubes with the hole through the middle. There's also a red cube with the hole through the middle that works too. And then you fill those boxes, and Sasquatch's medicine told him it's Betty Bye time. Good night, Sasquatch. It's good hearing from you, brother. I'll try to call you the next couple of days and catch up. But then put those boxes around the outside of the house. You definitely want one near the AC unit, because those AC penetrations are a real common area where pests get in the house. Because frequently the AC guys don't seal them, and so there'll just be a hole right there. And of course there's always water, not always, but okay, you don't have AC, well that helps. The other thing to check are the exhaust vents for the kitchen stove. And then if you're really having a big problem, you turn your phone upside down and turn the camera on and just run it along the siding, the bottom of the siding, and you'll probably start finding holes there between the foundation and the siding, and they're getting in there. But it sounds like your problem is probably at the dryer vent. So if you fix that dryer vent and put out those bait stations with the poison in them, you'll solve your problem and you won't have no more rats. I hates rats. I hates them. Yeah, B and C. If I had the laptop up, I would even try to get a link and post it in the chat, because it's a real simple solution. But that's what I would like to get back to as far as my prepping goes. I'd like to get the garden back up and running. And then that way I wouldn't have to worry about. But what I have to do, I have to have a way to bush hog around my place. And then until I can bush hog, I just can't have a garden. Because, it gets all grown up around there. And then the weeds come in from the periphery, and it just takes over. When I can bush hog, I can control the weeds better, and it doesn't turn into a jungle. What's bush hog? Is that a joke? Am I missing some? Is because you have to. Oh, a flail mower. I would love to have a flail mower. Hey, 1187 Gar is here. I haven't seen you in a while either, sir. Yeah, I would love to have. If by shredder you mean flail mower, that's my dream, is a flail mower. Oh, you don't speak Eastern. Bush hog is just a big lawnmower that you pull behind the tractor that cuts brush and can deal with uneven terrain. You can call it bush hog or brush hog, or I think most people around here call it bush hog. And a bush hog, now this is important, a bush hog is different from a finish mower. Now, if you get a finish mower, you're not allowed to bush hog with it. You can only use finish mower for grass, and you got to use the bush hog for the bush hogging. And if you don't do it right, they take your tractor away from you, I'm told. But yeah, no, the bush hog, you've seen them running down the side of the highways, cutting the right-of-ways on the highways. That's just a bush hog. I don't know what y'all call it out west. My guess is y'all don't have that many weeds because it's all desert, right? Nothing but sand from the Mississippi all the way to the Pacific. You got one rock and a cactus, and you move them on a conveyor belt beside the highway. It's one giant Roadrunner cartoon out there. As soon as you pass the Nacogdoches, Texas, soon as you get west of Nacogdoches, it's all desert. It's a Roadrunner cartoon. From there to the Grand Canyon. I know, because I've seen the Roadrunner. But yeah, no, Luke was actually talking about it earlier. He's just bored with the gear. Prepping turned into buying gear. I've seen it used on the side of the highway behind. Out here, Lance Corporal Veteran, with, we're kind of in almost like a temperate rainforest. And everyone but me owns a shredder around here. Is that what y'all call a flail mower or a shredder? Or you're actually talking like a chipper? What the hell are y'all talking about when you say shredder? Why y'all gotta be so weird? We'd have never sent y'all out there if we'd known y'all were gonna go this way. We would have kept you here. We were back east where we could have kept an eye on you. I should get more stock in Acme. Yeah, but flail mowers are awesome because they're like a drum, and they've got these little hinged flails on them, and they cut almost like a chipper. And so you run them into the big stuff, and they chop it all up, and they just leave mulch laying on the ground. Lately, there's suburban areas have been using goats because the city and county are trying to save money. See, Mike knows what a bush hog is. He uses a 7-footer. That's a big one. 7-footer is a good-sized bush hog. He must have some a little bit of territory. But no, back out here, we get so much rain, and the growing season is so long that the bush hogs are an animal. You're an animal, Wes. Yeah, the growing season's so long that you can have an empty field in the course of one summer, and it can be 10 foot high with just all kinds of crazy stuff, and you can't walk through it. So you've just got to be able to cut it somehow. And I hate goats. I hate goats. I just hate goats. I hate them. And also, I don't have any fences. So I have to have a bush hog. And then we've just got some evil, evil, evil weeds. I mean, we've got some plants out here that were just designed by Satan to kill people. Burdock and braddock and, oh, you name it. There's stuff that sticks to you and makes your skin turn into boils, and it's a freakish Garden of Eden. And on top of that, our soil's not great. And so, like, the weeds grow amazing, and the crops are like, I don't know, maybe. The soil's actually, you can, however, buy a bush hog made shredder, AKA a flail mower. So, okay, so a shredder is a flail mower. All right, as long as we're on the same page. I didn't know what was going on there for a minute. I didn't know if maybe y'all were watching too many, 1990s kid cartoons. If y'all are all out there with the adolescent martial arts amphibians fighting Shredder. What was going? That was really bad. I may have run out of steam already, man. I'm already making Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle jokes. Maybe I'm flailing. Maybe I'm the flail mower here. All right. Well, someone say something interesting, or we're going to call this one. You can buy a bush hog made shredder, aka flail mower. How do you make a bush hog? Because that works different. The bush hog's just like a really big, heavy lawnmower blade. Hey, Buddy Bears. Buddy Bear, I have been trying to explain bush hogs to these Westerners. Did you know that they don't have bush hogs out west? They're all acting like I'm the crazy one. They all use this thing called a... Oh, Buddy Bear, you did not. You've lived in the South your whole life. You know that the brand name is the name. The very first brand name to get something to the market in the South is therefore required by the law of the South to be the name by which that thing is called for all perpetuity, even after the initial company goes out of business. All right? It's not a circular saw, it's a skill saw. It's not a rotary color, it's a bush hog. It's not soft drinks, it's Coke. That is just how you're required to talk, and you are not allowed to live here if you're not willing to conform to the standard. They have a place for people like that. It's called the North. Please don't make me pull your Southerner card, Buddy Bear. I like and admire you. And if you're not going to conform to the culture, hey, shalom, Landon, you're going to have to go find a culture you can conform to. I cannot believe that you just said that. And around other people, too. There's outsiders in this chat, and you just set that kind of example. I just don't even know what to say about that, Buddy Bear. I don't even know what to say about that. You're better than that. Every drink is called a Coke, Buddy Bear. They're all Coke. Except RC. The only soft drink, oh, here, I just did it. The only Coke that's not a Coke is RC Cola. And you can call RC Cola by its brand name. Other than that, it's Coke. What else is there that's like that? There's a lot of things that are like that. Skill Sawzall is the one that, oh, Sawzall. It doesn't matter what, uh, I can't ever remember hearing a farmer say he was going to bush hog his cotton stalks. I don't know what to tell you about that, Wes. You know, if y'all ain't got good sense in breeding out there in Texas, I don't know that it is something that you can blame the rest of us for. It's called bush hog. Everyone calls it a bush hog. Anyone that matters calls it a bush hog, except for Buddy Bear, and we're going to have a secret meeting about him at the conclave. We're gonna call up the Grand Pumbaa and the illustrious potentate, and we're gonna have a secret meeting about Buddy Bear. Y'all ever heard that Ray Stevens song? Which one is it? Oh, well, it's like a Shriners Convention song or something, and the whole Pepsi sucks. Lance Corporal Veteran, why would you even want to drink Pepsi as opposed to Coke? It's so syrupy sweet. I'm brand loyal anyway, but Coke is just objectively better than Pepsi. You can harrow around your garden and move the weeds back away from your garden. Yeah, the harrow would do it. We have a harrow. It ain't a great harrow. I'm just at the point though where I'm Mexican Coke for the win. I just want the right piece of equipment. You know, I'm just sick and tired of rednecking this stuff. It doesn't work. I'm not good at it. I just want a piece of equipment that works that will do this job I need done. I'm sick of trying to. I'm not a good enough mechanic to keep this stuff running. I've either got to become a good mechanic. I don't have a daughter who I can get married off to a good mechanic right now. I had my last daughter to get married, did marry a good mechanic, but because he's a good mechanic, I don't feel like I can ask him to come work on my shit. You know, you can't ask him to do his job for free. Well, I appreciate that, buddy. But when we do them right, when we can do them well, and we can do them well, and we're gonna. You know what? I'm gonna commit right now, right here, right now, with you men on this live stream. Next year's garden is gonna be the best we've had. We're gonna do our best garden ever. I'm not gonna commit to it being the biggest garden ever, because we've done some pretty big gardens, but it's going to be our best one ever this year. We're gonna pick something that we know we can do. In the past, sometimes we'll get overwhelmed. You know, we'll do this huge damn plot of land. You know, a half-acre garden is a lot of work. That reminds me, I need to make sure my tiller's under cover. Because I don't think it is. And, you know, it's fine in the spring and the early summer, but then the weeds taking over and it gets away from us. But I got a spot up there right now that we were running the cow on pretty consistently for about a year. And I'm hoping that that's going to be a really good spot. I'm hoping that, because we fed her a lot of hay up there, she didn't just like graze it down to nothing. So I'm hoping that, you know, she manured it good for me, and that we're going to have a good spot up there this year. but we will see. We will see. Why are you laughing at me, Wes? I don't know what I said that was so funny. Whatever it is, tell me so I can say it again. But yeah, we'll definitely do the what the hell do they call those? The Yankees call them lima beans, but what do we call them down south? I forgot. Oh yeah, Dean, for sure. A ton of weed seeds were in that hay. What do we call lima beans down here? Oh, I can't remember. Butter beans. Thank you, Buddy Bear. Dear Lord, why couldn't I come up with butter beans? Mariah sells the hell out of butter beans at the farmers market. I mean, those old Southern ladies up there will just buy them all day long. All of them she can produce. In fact, they'll tell her that. They're like, don't you take those beans to the farmer's market. You just call me and I'll meet you somewhere and I'll buy all of them you got. So we'll do a bunch of the butter beans. And then we'll do a big crop of sweet potatoes because I love the sweet potatoes so much. And I really want to do tobacco again. Oh, you said you're going to show up with a shredder and bush hog your garden. I would appreciate, Wes. I would have look. That's not a joke, brother. Don't make commitments you can't live up, because I will absolutely hold you to that. You will be dragging that. I'll even call it a shredder for you if you want. I mean, I'll call it a rotary cutter if you want. Yes, I'll have you running these roads between Texas and Northeast Georgia, bush hogging or rotary cutting my garden for me. No, I'm going to solve that problem this year. I'm going to solve it. I already, actually, I'm going to do a video. Those of you who've been around for a long time may remember I did a series of videos years ago now about my shed and how terrible my shed was and how I cleaned it up and organized it and fixed it. And I actually did a pretty good job. And then it went to shit again pretty quick. And then, yeah, no, not if you're actually, no, not if it means my garden gets rotary mowed, then I'm good with that. You know, I'll compromise my principles. Then the shed collapsed, and I don't, some of you may have seen the collapsed shed. So I've gotten that completely torn apart. I've hauled off, and I kid you not, this is not a joke. I've hauled off close to 4,000 pounds of scrap metal, just shredder steel. It was over 4,000 pounds. It was well over, it was closer to 6,000 pounds. I just hauled off the last load yesterday, and it was the last little bits and pieces, and it was another 1,000 pounds. So I've hauled off about 6,000 pounds. Let's be conservative and say 5,000 pounds. And it was all straight metal. This wasn't junk. I burned all the non-metal, hauled off 6,000 pounds of metal, cut a bunch of trees, and I'm going to build me a little pole barn. It's going to be 20 by 30. And this is supposed to be my my ticket to a better life, where I'm going to finally be able to put some of my equipment under a roof. I'm going to have a place to work on stuff and have my tools, and hopefully I'll probably do some videos on it, because it's probably going to take over my life for the next couple of weeks. I'm ready to start building now next, because I got all the cleanup done, most of the cleanup done. I may have to drop one more tree, and I may have to move a pile of block, but we'll see. Hopefully not. And I still have a lot of metal laying around. I couldn't bring myself to throw it all out, but I threw away a lot of metal. What do we got? I put down a layer of chicken and cow manure compost. It works. My pumpkins like it. My property is on a slight slope, Lance Corporal Veteran. I'm probably on a 10 degree slope. So from the top to the bottom, I probably fall. It's definitely on a slope, but I wouldn't call it a hillside. It's and it's terraced. So one of the things that happened around here back in the Depression with the Civilian Conservation Corps and the TVA and all that is that they came through and terraced everything. Like almost the entire East Coast is terraced. So my hillsides were terraced back in the 30s. And so I've got, at the garden, I've got a three-step terrace. So it's not like growing on a hillside. And then below that, I've got two more terraces. One of them that was what the house is sitting on. And then the fourth one in between the garden and the house, I've gotten trees right now. So it's not going to be useful anytime soon, except for trees. The trees are useful. Yeah, that's a good idea, Dean. I probably will put shed roofs off of that 20 by 30 then at some point. But what I really want, my big dream, is I want a chain hoist, but I want it on a gantry so it can move back and forth. But I want it on one of those gantries that moves back and forth and side to side, so I can move something, I can pick it up here and move it side and back, so I can move the gantry around the whole thing. That's my dream. So I could back a truck up underneath there, hoist whatever's in the truck off the bed, slide it down to where I want it. I mean, that would be some high-tech redneck right there, and I would be a very happy young man. So, but I've been looking and I can't find. I know I've seen them before because I've used them in other places. Yeah, it's an overhead hoist, but it's on a rail, so it can slide up and down the rail. But then there's this whole nother layer of rails you can put underneath the rail. And so those rails will let the hoist move backward and forward. And then the regular rail lets the whole thing move side to side. And they're really, really, really useful. Really useful. I just can't remember what they're damn called. So I haven't been able to look one up. I can find chain hoists all day long, but I haven't found I think it's called a gantry. I know it's called a gantry, but then there's something that lets the gantry go like a 3D printer, it can move back and forth and sideways, but then the sideways can move back and forth. Yeah, it's like basically it like slides on like a upside down railroad train track. They're very cool. Anywho, Matthew says a gantry swings off the wall. That might be another Southernism. Because I've always heard the gantries as hanging from the ceiling. I am tired. I think we might have to call this one, man. I'm so sorry. This has been a short one. But I have run out of steam early. And I'm not being that interesting. So we appreciate you, Buddy Bear. I know this might be the first time you've ever sat one out to the end. The Sasquatch left us already. Palmetto Paratrooper's been quiet, so he's probably already wandered off. Luke B never showed back up. So those of you that stuck with us, we appreciate it. And I apologize if this one wasn't quite as interesting as they have been in the past. But I always enjoy talking with you, man. And I look forward to seeing you You were about to call it. uh, we will probably see you next week. I'm not gonna promise, but okay. So the one off the wall is a job crane. Landon stuck around. So we appreciate you, and I will probably talk to you next week. Oh yeah, now it's movie time. Y'all have a good night. We appreciate you.